Welcome to the channel. If this is your first time joining, if you're returning, thank you for coming back. If you wanted to support the channel, the link is in the description box below. I know a lot of you guys have subscribed to this channel for certain reasons, and a lot of the content, I know it's all over the place in a sense, and what's already understood doesn't actually need to be explained. But without further ado, I'm gonna jump off into this content. We're following lawsuits on government entities. So in the process of doing so, you have to obey certain laws and rules and procedures when doing it. Matter of fact, before we even get to all that, a lot of you guys came to the channel for this particular clip right here, and then we'll just go on from here, and I'll explain some things to you. All right, thank you. All right,
Let me ask you something.
What's up,
Mr. Campbell? When I explained to you what was going on, you still wanted to argue, and I don't understand that.
No.
I tried to explain it to you very clear.
Okay.
And for some reason, you thought I was attacking you or whatever.
All right.
I mean, can you explain it to me? I'm trying to understand is what I'm trying to do.
Okay. There's really nothing to explain. Am I free to leave?
No, you're not.
Okay.
You're not. Go ahead. Yeah. I tell you what. Let's get Henry County to meet us over here. I'll go ahead and let them charge.
I mean,
I'm not going to argue.
That's why there's nothing to say.
We're going to go ahead and get Henry County over here. I'm a deputy sheriff also, so
Okay.
I'm sorry you're detained right now. You don't want to cooperate. I'll just get Henry County here and write you.
I don't understand how I'm not cooperating. Ugh, this is crazy.
It's gonna be just south of SLR and Hastings River.
You talked yourself into this one. All I was trying to do is keep him getting run over.
Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and establish the fact that if you have any type of interaction with any type of law enforcement, period, I don't care what it is, even if it's a simple driving violation, you get stopped, get a speeding ticket or something like that, record the whole thing. Have a dash cam in your vehicle. If you're on foot, you're stopped on foot, start recording. Before you get the call in, whoever you're gonna call, start recording the whole thing. Get somebody else to call, a lawyer or a bondsman or whoever the case may be, because you need to have that in your defense if you do get arrested, or even if you don't get arrested, in case you want to file a civil suit if they violate your rights. And the thing is, a lot of Americans don't know their civil rights. It's only when you've been through the situation multiple times, then you start learning a thing or two about these people just trampling over your rights, which they do on a regular basis. And if you don't if you don't challenge it, they're not going to tell you. You know what I mean? And cops will and can lie straight like that. You could do your research yourself. So whenever you're filing a lawsuit on any type of government entity, I'm gonna tell you like this: do not, I repeat, do not file it in federal court first. Don't do it. Okay? They have qualified immunity when it comes to the federal court system. It's only when it's like excessive force and it's like blatant. Only time really stuff like that really gets won in federal court is when it's like on the news, and even then sometimes it still doesn't. They still won't. The plaintiff still won't win the case. So you have the United States Constitution, and then you have each state's individual constitution. So what you want to focus on is strictly state law, right? And you have to find the state laws that coincide with your particular situation or whatever you went through. So and when you do this, then you can proceed from there. You file your complaint with whichever court, but you have to have the proper venue and things like that. I'm gonna show a clip that's gonna kind of break all that down some more. You have to have your proper venue, which is the area, the locality, or whichever county or city it was in, and you're gonna file it depending upon how the amount and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch more to it. I'm not gonna get into too much detail with that. But once you start the procedure, you're gonna file your complaint. It does cost unless you file an affidavit, a property affidavit with that state or county. Like, let's say you're unemployed or something like that. The court will review it and see that, you know, you don't have enough funds to pay for the initial filing fees, and then you will be able to file it free of charge. But if you are working or if you have the funds to pay for it, I would suggest you go ahead and pay. You will get that money back later on. So this particular situation, the case was, complaint was filed and stuff like that. But let me show you how slick they do, right? Law enforcement and also certain major companies, what they'll do is try to take the case to federal court, because they'll have more of an advantage there. And it's a lot, I'm gonna say it's more complicated, but they have an advantage in the federal court system, especially law enforcement, because they have qualified immunity there. And unless they didn't clearly violate your constitutional rights, and even then still, so like I said, let's go back. So like I said, just file in the state court. Just to kill all that, file in the state court. Because if you file in the federal court and they shoot it down, you can't go back, because you're going to learn later on, oh, I should have started in state court, or whatever. And you can't go and file it again. You'll be hit. They'll get away with whatever they did to you, and then you'll be mad. Okay? So one of the strategies that law enforcement and certain companies, major companies, for like slip and fall accidents and things like that, what they try to do is called the snap removal strategy. What they'll do is they'll try to get it moved to federal court before they get served with the summons. If they know that you're pursuing a lawsuit on them, as soon as they see that complaint get filed, they jump and go run to the federal government. You know what I'm saying? They run to the federal court system. That way they get that blanket of immunity. So here's a clip that's going to kind of break down a little bit more about the jurisdiction and stuff like that.
Specifically, we're going to focus in on removal. But first, remember, think back to our basic requirements at a really broad, high level. Remember, here we say to hear and decide a case before it, a court generally must have 3 things. Number 1, court needs subject matter jurisdiction of the particular type of case before it. Number 2, court needs personal jurisdiction of the defendant. And number 3, we know that court needs proper venue based on locality. Of course, in this lesson, we're continuing our discussion of this first basic requirement, which is subject matter jurisdiction. And remember, we're really thinking about subject matter jurisdiction at the federal level, whether this is the type of case that this federal court can hear and decide. And remember, here we say, other than subject matters exclusively allocated to federal courts by law, there are generally 4 main ways for a federal court to obtain subject matter jurisdiction over a case. And thus far in our series on civil procedure, we've discussed federal question jurisdiction, diversity jurisdiction, and supplemental jurisdiction. Of course, in this lesson, we're moving on to removal. Okay, and the good news here with removal is if we understand federal question jurisdiction and diversity jurisdiction, specifically those 2 concepts, removal should be a breeze. It's basically a reapplication of the same analyses. We'll see there's a couple nuances thrown in there, but really, for the most part, if we understand federal question and diversity, removal is just reapplying these concepts. So it should be pretty straightforward. Would highly recommend, if you haven't seen our lessons on federal question and diversity, stopping here, go back, watch those, and then you'll be ready for removal. If you haven't seen those, if you don't have federal question jurisdiction and diversity jurisdiction kind of down, removal might not make any sense. So we want to make sure we have those concepts down before we get into removal. Okay, but what is removal at a really broad, just kind of high level? So we know in civil procedure that the plaintiff gets to choose where to file an action, right? The plaintiff essentially selects the forum. And the plaintiff can take their complaint and they can file that complaint in any court they want. They can go to any state court, any federal court. The plaintiff gets to choose where to file their action, right? It's kind of a bedrock principle of American jurisprudence. So the unique feature about removal is it's kind of one of these rare instances where the defendant actually gets some say in the form selection process. We'll see if certain requirements are met. A defendant, not a plaintiff, a defendant can actually take an action that was filed in state court and move that action to federal court, essentially changing the forum. Okay, so remember, plaintiff gets to choose where to file the action. This is a bedrock principle, but if certain requirements are met and that plaintiff chose a state court, defendant can come along and potentially remove the action to federal court. And there's a lot of reasons a defendant might want to do this. The most common would just be that the defendant perceives the federal court is going to be more favorable.
A link to that video and that page will be in the description box below. It's pretty informative. That's pretty much the best and simplest explanation of what removals and subject matter jurisdiction and stuff like that. Because if you're not privy, or if you haven't dealt with the law before, it's like speaking Chinese. So trust me when I say it. But like I said, it'll be in the description box below. So pretty much in a nutshell, if you're following a lawsuit on a government entity and you start off in state court and then you run to the federal court, you got them, because they're trying to go for that blanket of immunity, specifically with dealing with law enforcement. They always do it. Also too, I'm gonna say do not file directly on the police department itself. File on the city, because the city is responsible for the conduct of their police department and everything else. It's pretty much the city is the boss of everything that goes on within that county. So that's another tip that I want to give you. Don't go directly to the police department, because again, I believe even in state court they have qualified immunity if they're operating within the scope of their job. So going back to this removal thing, so what they'll do is they'll try to shoot over there, but you're not lost. You know what I'm saying? Everything is not over with. You're not going to lose. What you can do, if you can show the court that it was improperly removed from the state court to the federal court, then you can actually have it remanded back to the state level. And here's why. Now, there's certain requirements. There's a certain amount, and then there's the certain amount, like if it's over $75,000 that you're that you're pursuing in damages, then yes, they can remove it to a federal level. But also, then the diversity of jurisdiction, it has the plaintiff. If the plaintiff is also within that county, you and that plaintiff, or the plaintiff was, back up. If the defendant resides or operates within that county that you're filing the lawsuit in, then that's they're on the same state. You can stay there. And then what was the last one? If they're out of state, then yeah, they could take it to the federal court and stuff like that. There's a couple other things that you can argue. But the whole thing is like this: if they, before you even get a chance to serve them, and they run to the federal court system, you got them, because that's the word that you're trying to duck it. Also too, one thing I want to point out, for things like excessive force in certain laws, they don't have it on state law. So a 1983, which is a federal law, gives the open door for you to file a civil suit for police misconduct and certain things that they don't have in state law. Now, a state court has the jurisdiction and subject matter jurisdiction to hear federal law, specifically 1983s. Now, the crazy thing about it is the federal court, even though it's a higher court in a sense with the laws and the punishments and stuff like that, they cannot hear any state charges because of it's complicated, because each state has its own particular set of laws. So the state laws, if you file a suit as the plaintiff, if you file a suit on a government entity or and you make sure that complaint is all state law. If you do put the 1983 in it, specifically state what it's about. So pretty much, and their supporting case laws, a lot of it, I'm not going to go into that because I don't want to lose your interest. There's a lot of it that supports the fact that the state has a right, or they can hear federal law claims, specifically 1983 claims. There's a whole bunch of other stuff you can go look into that, but specifically 1983's came about dealing with excessive force. So my whole thing is make sure that you keep it on the state level, and you have a opportunity to amend the complaint. Make an amendment to complaint is pretty much just changing the complaint that you initially filed. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe that you can amend your complaint multiple times before the action actually gets started, but pretty much before the first court appearance and stuff like that. You can change it or tweak it, if you find some new information, if you made a mistake, or something like that, or something wasn't correct, or you filed it in the improper venue. You could, fix that mistake that you made before it starts, because once you get it into court and the procedure start, you can't just change it every 5 minutes. That's not fair to the defense. I will say that. So I think you have, in the federal court, I know you only have one opportunity to amend or change or fix your initial complaint, but after that, it's set in stone. It's not going to change. So make sure that you have all your ducks in a row, all information. Make sure all the things that they did wrong, you get all that down, and you do your due diligence and do your research on it. So from there, the procedure goes. Then it goes to discovery, which pretty much both parties, they present each other's, show each other what evidence they have before the trial and stuff like that. And if you pretty much have a strong case and the defense, there's no win for the defense, and it'll be just a waste of time and funds on their end, most of the time they will settle. But if they don't, and they feel that they can beat this case and they have a strong defense, stuff like that, then it's going to go to trial. It's going to be all up to the jury to make that final decision. So I hope this information was helpful to you. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at these two particular cases. So like I said before, I know a lot in the beginning, a lot of people have come across this channel and it's like all over the place, and specifically just the last content. Think of it like this: why would anybody with any type of problems with any type of law enforcement or anybody causing any type of static, if had multiple lawsuits that's occurring right now as we speak, like this pending right now? I want no smoke, no static, no nothing. Trying to focus on this. And let me also add this: you can do this on your own. You do not need an attorney. Most people would advise you to get an attorney. Use your own discernment when you're doing that. Whenever you call to these law firms, it's going to say in fine print, and when you look it online, you're going to see in fine print, this does not establish attorney-client privilege. So whatever information you provide to this attorney about this case, they don't have to hold it. They could tell whoever they want to, in a sense, and you're hit. So dealing with your case, if you give this person or this lawyer you're speaking to all this information, and you actually pay, this is so crazy, you pay for that come on, brain. It's not an interview. You know what the word I'm thinking of. When they review your case, I'm gonna think about it. When they review the case, right? Now, most of the time when you call, they'll say you'll be speaking to an intake specialist. That's just a fancy title. That person is not a paralegal. They're not an attorney. They are just like me and you. They got a job at a law firm, and they answer the phone and they take notes, and then they pass it on to the paralegal or the attorney, and they decide is it worth enough money for them to pursue. And if these particular law firms are buddy with some of these police departments or whatever entity that you're going against, and you give them all this information, they can and will take this information straight back to the same people that you are filing a complaint on, and you'll be sitting there wondering, how did they get this? Oh, also, and this as well, when you call to these law firms, this is a fact, they can record that phone call. So they can record your call, have all the information, and call you back or email you back and say, no, I'm sorry, we're not able to take your case, and then give that same recording, because we're not around, we don't know, give that same recording right to the same people you're trying to pursue a civil suit on, so they know everything that you're coming with. It's a dirty game that they play. So with that said, if you can read and write and comprehend, and when it comes down to law, there are some things that are complicated, and it's going to be frustrating and stuff like that, especially if you got personal things going on in your life and you're working a 9 to 5, it's a lot. But if you have that, what's the word I'm looking for? The courage and the due diligence and the fortitude to pursue it and stay steadfast in your fight for justice, you can do this. Trust me when I say this, okay? Going back to these attorneys and stuff like that, like I said, I'm not an attorney. And I've been dealing with dirty attorneys for a long time. I know how they play. I've seen some things in these courtrooms. A lot of you just watching this probably have never been in trouble. You probably had a slip and fall, something like that, or dealing with civil part, but not on the criminal aspect of it. It is a whole nother level, especially if you don't have the funds to pay for this. Imagine you sit there spend $5,000 on a defense or even with a civil suit, and you just get got. You're gonna feel some type of way, and you could have did it yourself and just paid court costs and did some research. I'm just saying. So with that said, I'm gonna pull up these cases, and you can go do your own research yourself. You don't have to believe nothing I'm saying. This is in black and white. This is public record. I'm just pointing you in the direction. So with that said, a lot of people will be like, oh, this guy's this, that, and the third, blah, blah, blah. Listen, there's a whole lot more going on back behind the scenes than you know. And the fact that I'm right, I'm so right. And this is just one particular situation. There's multiple, and there's millions of dollars on the table. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump off to this next clip. Okay, so if you want to look into this more depth and actually review some of the motions, you can go ahead and set you up a account or register on Peach Court. So this is filed in Georgia, and you can type in the case number. And this is how you can look up any case. So you can search by name or case. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the case number for you. It goes right there. And you just punch it in. And once you do, it'll bring you to that page. And it'll show you the court docket. It'll show you different cases, different people's cases. And this is the search query. So you'll see this is it right here. Then we're going to scroll on down. You see the defendants, and you see the complaint, and at the bottom, the notice for removal to the federal court. So now it's out of the state court's hand, and that is the motion right there. You can't view it all the way. You'd have to actually pay for it unless you are logged into an account to actually view that document. But don't worry about all that. You can just go right on over to Pacer. That is also free. All this is free to start an account. All this is free, costs nothing to you. So we're gonna go on over. But before we go to Pacer, I believe, give me a second. Yeah, we're gonna go on over to Pacer. All right. No, yeah. We're gonna show, and yeah, Pacer. This is another free one. You don't have to set up an account for that. You can just look this up, and it'll show you pretty much the docket sheet. And once again, you can't review each motion or anything like that, but I'm just showing you the procedures and steps that we're taking. All right, so this is another thing. You don't even have to set up an account for this. You just go look this up. Then that's the case number right there. If you do, go over to Pacer. And once again, this is all free, and you can go look this up. So if you have any civil cases or any criminal cases, somebody has been through the federal system, you can look them up just like this right here, all across the United States, and it's free. So once again, you go set up a register account, but you can also look it up like this right here, court lookup. I just went straight to the Northern District, and then once you get logged in and actually have an account set up, then you could put in that particular case number right there, and it'll bring you straight to the case, and you could review and see all the motions filed and everything like that. And this is something that you're gonna have to do anyway. If you are representing yourself, you're gonna have to be able to navigate all this crap and and find your case and be able to file your motions electronically. If you can, you could do it the old way by mail, as long as you have the clerk of court's address and stuff like that, and sign and do all the procedures like that properly. Then you can just mail it to the clerk of courts. It takes a little bit longer, and e-filing is so much more convenient because it keeps everything all organized and stuff like that. And yeah, and so that's pretty much everything in a nutshell. Excuse me. Them folks know about this, bro. Like, family, and they know all about this. They've been trying to get me. Boy, they've been trying all type of craziness, just like it's not funny. It's so stressful. You guys have no idea, you know. And that's why it just makes no sense of all the other crap that I had to put up with, outside of just trying to get justice. You know, came a long way. Went through a lot of stuff, and thank you again if you made it to the end, and I hope you learned something. Once again, do your due diligence and research, and if you do find yourself in a situation where you feel like your rights have been violated by law enforcement, man, please do your research. Do your research, you know what I mean? And when you talk to these attorneys, if your gut says don't mess with them, like I said, I'm not telling you not to get an attorney, because sometimes you probably need one. If you just, that's on you. You know, everybody makes their own choices at the end of the day. But I'm here to tell you, you can do this. You can do this. And I've witnessed people that went pro se and done some things. I've represented myself on several occasions, and yeah, came out victorious. So you can do it. I'm here to encourage you that you can. And thank you for watching to the end. And hope you be here, and I'll be here to continue this journey for this fight for justice. Thank you.